At our son's first birthday party, my wife ordered a separate dish just for her assistant. Without a moment's hesitation, I messaged my lawyer to draft a divorce agreement. When she saw the papers, Victoria Blackwood laughed out of sheer anger. There were 100 dishes at the party, and you were fixated on the one for Julian. Can't you rein in that possessiveness of yours for once? Say what you will, I said calmly. I'm dead set on this divorce. When I returned to the banquet hall, my wife's assistant was occupying the seat that was supposed to be mine. He was wearing a suit in the same color scheme as Victoria's dress, carrying himself as if he were the man of the house. Assistant Reed and Ms. Blackwood really do make a handsome couple. Ms. Blackwood comes to work with him every day. They're probably already living together. The words from my colleagues reached my ears, and my heart felt as though it had been squeezed by an invisible hand. Seeing me return, Julian Reed apologized with a look of grievance. Sincere, it's all my fault. I was clumsy and spilled red wine on your suit. You're not mad at me, are you? Before I could respond, Victoria spoke first. I know exactly what you're like. Go sit at table 3. I ordered you a bowl of soup. Everyone praised Victoria for being so considerate to her colleagues. That young man just said his stomach hurt, so Ms. Blackwood ordered soup just for him. His shoe was rubbing his heel raw, and she put a bandage on it for him. Only Julian is lucky enough to have such a thoughtful woman. I smiled on the outside, but my nails dug deep into my palm. Victoria used to despise incompetence more than anyone. She once fired an assistant on the spot for a single typo on a name card. I hadn't seen this kind of patience from her in a long time, not even for me. Today's star is my son. Let's not talk about me, Victoria said coolly, offering no explanation. As the birthday celebration was about to begin, she stopped me from getting up. I forgot to tell you, I've already chosen Leo's godfather. Before I could react, Julian Reed placed a silver locket around Leo's neck. He planted a kiss on our son's cheek. From now on, I'm a father to Leo too. When he looked up, the challenge in his eyes was unmistakable. The rest of the ceremony was kept simple. Just as it was about to end, Victoria suddenly interrupted the proceedings. According to tradition, since he's being named godfather today, the ceremony isn't complete until Leo bows to Julian. Bows? I frowned. Leo is only 1 year old. Bowing could lead to suffocation or brain injury. Can you think before you speak? Victoria's tone was sharp. Is it that Leo really can't, or is it that you have a problem with my choice of godfather? It's all right, Miss Blackwood. I've already given him the locket, so we can consider the ceremony complete, Julian interjected. And the woman who had been arguing with me moments before immediately calmed down. May I say a few words of blessing for Leo? With Victoria's silent approval, the microphone was handed to Julian. My eyes swept across the table, and a wineglass with a residue of red wine stood out. Julian smiled, his eyes crinkling. I heard Leo was an IVF baby. Looking closely now, he really does seem to lack a bit of a human touch. IVF babies must be especially delicate. It must be tough on you, Sincere, taking care of him. Oh, by the way, does Leo know he came from a lab? A sharp crack echoed through the room. I had walked off the stage and slapped Julian across the face. The blow knocked his head to the side and his eyes welled up with tears. Another sharp crack. Victoria's face was cold. That's for Julian, from me to you. With that, she took Julian and left the hall. The room fell into a stunned silence. Forcing a polite smile, I announced, "Everyone, please feel free to eat." Back home, my left cheek was still throbbing with heat. After putting the baby to sleep, I lay on the sofa, feeling as if a piece of my chest had been carved out. It felt like my heart was being pounded by dozens of lemons, sour, swollen. Even breathing became difficult. It wasn't until late at night that the sound of the door opening broke the silence. Victoria reached out to touch my face, but I pulled away. I was wrong. Sincere. She knelt on the floor, gently brushing her face against my knee. But you hit him first, after all. Julian was drunk and talking nonsense. How could you take a drunkard seriously? She smiled at me, straightening up to brush her nose against mine. Will you forgive me? In the moonlight, I caught the scent of men's cologne on her collar. I picked up the agreement from the table and handed it to her, my voice heavy with exhaustion. Victoria, let's get a divorce. Divorce? Victoria's expression froze. She took the agreement and read it over and over. Once she confirmed I was serious, she threw the papers in my face. Are you insane, Sincere Clark? Leo just turned 1, and you want to divorce me? Do you think divorce is something you can just decide with a few words? I know I was wrong today, I hit you. But every action has a cause. I've already apologized. When are you going to let go of that stubborn streak of yours? Get it straight. You're a father now. Family harmony should be your top priority. She went on and on, failing to see the tear that slid down my cheek. The cut on my face, left by the staple on the papers, stung as the tear burned it. Victoria instinctively reached for her wallet. Then her hand froze as if someone had hit pause. You gave your bandage to Julian, didn't you? And you ordered a special bowl of soup just for him. Faced with my questions, she regained some of her composure. So what? That doesn't mean anything. Divorcing over a bowl of soup and a bandage. Sincere, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. Victoria's voice was so loud it woke the sleeping baby. His cries filled the living room. Watching her brow furrow in annoyance, I asked, Do you even know where Leo's bottle and formula are? The unexpected question left Victoria stunned. A trace of mockery touched my lips. Of course, she wouldn't know where the formula was. After giving birth, Victoria had been consistently cold towards Leo. She refused to breastfeed him and wouldn't even look at him for more than a moment. Having him ruined my figure. I hate what I've become. The memory of Victoria's breakdown flashed in my mind. Holding the bottle, before I went into the bedroom, I signed my name on the agreement. You should sign it too. Otherwise, I'll file for divorce on the grounds of adultery. And you won't get a thing. Victoria tried to argue, but I reached out and touched the face I once loved so deeply. Your breath. It has the scent of the red wine Julian was drinking today. What did you two get up to? It's so hard to guess. After I got Leo back to sleep, I came out to find the living room empty. Victoria was gone. The agreement was torn to shreds in the trash can. On the table sat a luxury brand gift bag. It was the one Victoria had been hiding behind her back when she first came in. I opened it to find a limited edition designer baby blanket. My eyes darkened. Ever since I became a father, all of Victoria's gifts to me had been for the baby. She was trying, step by step, to trap me under the title of Leo's father. 2 notifications chimed on my phone, almost simultaneously. A message from the law firm I had been in contact with. We heard Attorney Clark was taking a break to care for his child. We didn't expect you to reach out to us. We believe that with you on board, our team will be unstoppable. Here's to a successful partnership. I replied politely and closed the chat, only to see a new friend request. The verification message was just 4 words. This is Julian Reed. The moment I accepted, a message from him came through. It was a photo of a towel with specks of blood on it, the bed sheets underneath visibly damp. Your wife says I satisfy her more. She said she wanted to give me her first time, so she had hymen restoration surgery. I understood his subtext. He was a recent graduate with nothing to his name. Faced with Victoria's affections, he thought he had won her whole heart and was eager to flaunt his new status. Young people often have the reckless courage of a moth drawn to a flame. For a moment, it was like I was seeing my younger self. I was 16 when Victoria and I became the only 2 students from our small town to get into a top high school. Victoria's parents, both middle school teachers, were so happy they threw a 3-day celebration. I, on the other hand, couldn't bring myself to tell my family the news. My parents died when I was 8, and I was taken in by my uncle, Walter Croft. Living under someone else's roof taught me early on how to read people and act accordingly. With a few empty liquor bottles at his feet, my uncle sized me up while clinking glasses with the factory manager, Mr. Evans. Damn it, my sister had to die early and leave me with this curse. Good thing he's a boy. He's got some muscle. Should fetch a good price, right? Of course, Mr. Evans agreed readily. You'll get 80% of his monthly wage and I'll take the other 10% as a finder's fee. As they drank and chatted, They mapped out the entire course of my life in a few sentences. So when Victoria excitedly found me and asked what day I was heading to school to register, I could only stammer, unable to form a complete sentence. The main door suddenly swung open, and my uncle's fawning voice filled the air. "This boy of mine is good at everything. As soon as you're ready, I'll send him right over." The way they looked at me, it was as if I were a piece of merchandise. "I'm not going to school. I'm getting a job. Do you want to go?" Victoria's voice came out as a timid whisper. My response was buried in silence. That night, Victoria secretly opened the gate. Under the night sky, her eyes shone brighter than the stars. "I brought money. Let's go. To school." On their deathbeds, my parents had endured immense pain to tell me I must always listen to my uncle, but in that moment all I wanted was to hold on to Victoria's hand. In high school, I was ostracized and mocked for my rural accent and shabby clothes. Victoria, bright and outgoing, quickly blended in with the city kids. Sensing my withdrawal from her, she pulled me into a corner, her face serious. "Sincere, if you don't like me hanging out with them, I'll just be friends with you. Just don't hate me." Suddenly, I felt a surge of courage. All my insecurities erupted in that moment. I cried quietly, and she waited patiently for me to release all my emotions. From then on, Victoria would always find me eating alone in a corner of the cafeteria. Every day she would share a simple bowl of oatmeal with me, which cost just a few cents. Facing the strange looks from our classmates, Victoria stood firm and unwavering. "I'm from a small town too. If you look down on Sincere, you're looking down on me." As fate would have it, Victoria and I got the exact same score on our college entrance exams. Timidly, I asked her where she wanted to apply. She answered without hesitation, "Wherever you go, I'll go." Victoria's love was passionate and sincere. "Do you like—" Just as I was about to ask, my uncle suddenly appeared. His eyes were bloodshot. "I finally found you, you little bastard. Damn it, you're all grown up now, messing around with women, are you? Because you ran off, I couldn't deliver you and nearly got my legs broken." A thick steel pipe swung towards me, but Victoria threw herself in front of me. She held me down tightly. My vision was obscured, and all I could sense was the thickening smell of blood in the air. As Victoria was being loaded into the ambulance, she squinted from the pain, her voice weak. "Yes, I like you. Will you be with me?" My uncle was sentenced to 3 years for assault. When we went to the capital for university, Victoria's arm was still in a cast with steel pins. After graduation, we decided to start our own business, sharing a bowl of plain soup in a cramped basement apartment. My courage was spent on that night we ran away, in that ambulance where she confessed, and during those years we struggled to build our company against all odds. So now, looking at the photo Julian sent me, I had no courage left to face it. The girl who was as pure as the moon, who shared simple meals with me, had finally lost herself in a world of debauchery and excess. I spent a week packing up my and my son's belongings. Victoria never came home during that time, but news of her was inescapable. Victoria took Julian to a business banquet, their arms linked the entire time, a clear display of intimacy. She bought out the entire new line of a luxury watch brand just to see Julian smile. According to a press release, Victoria booked the entire top floor of the Crestview Hotel, sharing a private dinner with Julian before watching a fireworks display on the terrace that was just for them. The numbness in my heart gave way to a dull, throbbing pain. Victoria's high-profile actions had successfully kept the headline Blackwood Group CEO's marriage on the rocks at the top of the trending lists. The comments were a mixed bag. If I were the CEO, I'd choose the assistant too. Youth is an asset. The way they're appearing in public, they've probably been divorced for a while. I've been saying this for a while. A man over 25 is like 65. Powerful women all want to pick younger men. She looks better with the assistant anyway. Once, an entertainment reporter spread a rumor that Victoria and I were on the verge of divorce. Before the story even went to print, Victoria intercepted it. She made the reporter publicly apologize, and he was never seen in the journalism world again. Victoria knew I cared, and she paid close attention to every bit of online chatter. Her behavior now felt like she was intentionally drawing the final curtain on our marriage. I arrived at my desk to find it buried under a mountain of files. I had been on leave for a week, and Victoria hadn't asked about me once. Pushing the files aside, I called my assistant. When the head of legal nameplate was hung around her neck, Sarah Collins' eyes widened. "I'll transfer all access rights to you shortly. Let the company system know that from now on, any files Ms. Blackwood doesn't have time to approve should not be routed to the legal department." "Mr. C, are you and Ms. Blackwood really—" "Yes." I nodded. "We're over." After clearing the backlog of documents, I took the divorce agreement and went to the top floor. As I stepped out of the elevator, I could hear a group of people laughing and talking from a distance. "Julian, you're still so modest. I heard all about it from Sarah today." "That's right. No one but you could fill that spot by Ms. Blackwood's side. All that's left is the official announcement of your status. We're all waiting for the day you'll be looking out for us." Julian was sitting at the assistant's desk, a wide, unrestrained smile on his face. Seeing me, he showed no surprise. "Sincere, are you looking for Ms. Blackwood?" In just 1 week, Victoria's office had been filled with mannequins and men's formal wear. Julian smirked at me. "Ms. Blackwood is taking me to a gala tonight. I didn't know what to wear, so she had them send over the entire new collection for me to choose from. When our son was just born, I was stretched thin. Victoria's office was spacious, so I had cautiously asked if I could keep Leo's bottle and formula maker there. She had snapped at me. "This is an office, not a nursery. Are you trying to constantly remind me that I'm in my lactation period, to pressure me into breastfeeding Leo? Don't even think about it. It seems some principles could be changed." I lowered my gaze. "Victoria, here is the divorce agreement. I've already signed it." She finally stopped what she was doing. She looked at the papers I placed in front of her, then looked up and frowned. "Take it away. I'm not signing." A sudden gasp interrupted Victoria. Julian pointed to a clear shoe print on his suit trousers. "Miss Blackwood, this was the last suit my father designed before he died." Tears welled up in his eyes. Victoria's gaze was filled with sympathy. "Go and wipe the shoe print off." She stared directly at me, her commanding tone grating on my nerves. "I didn't step on it, so I'm not wiping it off." At my words, his crying grew louder. "You're the only one who walked past from that direction. Who else could it have been? You know perfectly well who it was." Julian's phone rang. He answered, and the speakerphone broadcast the call clearly for all of us to hear. "You little gigolo, who told you to seduce Victoria Blackwood. You'll get what's coming to you for being a homewrecker. I swear I'll get justice for Sincere." His eyes filled with a fragile vulnerability. "Miss Blackwood, my phone is suddenly flooded with hateful messages." Victoria's face grew even more annoyed. "Did you arrange this? To do this to a recent graduate, Sincere Clark? Do you feel no shame?" She picked up a pen and signed the agreement, then threw it on the floor. "You disgust me." I picked up the agreement. No matter what sounds came from behind me, I didn't look back. Victoria sank into her chair, breathing heavily. Her gaze suddenly fell on a small lock of hair tucked under the divorce papers. Her pupils constricted for a moment. She burst out of the office, but I was already gone. Rushing downstairs, Victoria watched with her own eyes as I got into a convertible Ferrari. In the car, my son was sleeping soundly in his safety seat. In the driver's seat, Isabel Thorne chuckled softly. Leo was crying for his daddy earlier, so I brought him over. I guess he cried himself to sleep. Looking at the woman's face, which was almost identical to how it was 7 years ago, I joked, "If I had known you were at this law firm, I would have gone to another one." Isabel's eyes glinted with a sly confidence. When I returned to the country, this was the only firm I contacted. I gambled that you would choose it. The atmosphere in the car suddenly felt a little charged. I met her deliberate gaze and found myself at a loss for words. I was about to turn and look out the window to break the strange tension when the car came to a stop. "We're here." The firm had arranged a new place for me to live. This was the first step in my new life. After unpacking, I came into the living room. My son was still fast asleep. Isabel was lying on her side next to him, her eyes closed, her hand hovering gently as she patted Leo's back. "What do you mean you can't trace the car?" In stark contrast to our peaceful scene, Victoria slammed a cup on the floor. "That car took my husband, and your excuse is that you can't find it?" Her hand trembled slightly as she drummed her fingertips on the desk. On the desk lay a small lock of our son's hair. Cutting one's hair to sever ties. Sincere was trying to cut the maternal bond between her and their son. Victoria slammed her fist on the desk. She would never allow that to happen. The ringing of her phone brought a wave of relief. At least he hadn't blocked her. The moment the call connected, Victoria spoke first. "Where are you? So you had to wipe a shoe print for Julian? If you didn't want to, you didn't have to. How could you drag our child into this? How childish." "All right, Sincere Clark, come back to work. Bring the divorce agreement back. I'll tear it up, and we can go on living our lives properly." She spoke with restraint, thinking this would be enough to make me come back and continue being her super dad. There was a pause on the other end, then my voice came through, slightly breathless. "Victoria, are you insane? Do you think a divorce is like playing house, something you can just call off? The papers have already been filed with my firm. A lawyer will contact you." And I sighed. "I'm not coming back to work. I'm the largest shareholder in Blackwood Group. I can afford to give up my position at the company. Don't call me again. Victoria, from now on, we go our separate ways." The line went dead with a click. She frantically redialed, only to be met with a busy signal. In all the years they had known each other, this was the first time Sincere had ever hung up on her. Victoria could slowly hear her own heartbeat growing louder and louder. She forced herself to calm down. Her mind replayed our recent conversation over and over. Suddenly, Victoria realized something. Just before he hung up, she thought she had heard a woman's voice on the other end. Something was gradually slipping out of her control. If she rushed home now, she might be able to catch Sincere and confront him. Victoria grabbed her car keys, abandoning her work, and sped towards home. On the way, Victoria rehearsed what she would say when she saw Sincere. She imagined various scenarios, but never once did she consider that the house would be completely silent when she walked in. Victoria had clearly seen Sincere's slippers placed neatly by the door, yet she kept calling out his name. When her throat was hoarse, she finally noticed the house key on the table. Everything in the house related to him and their son had vanished. It was as if they had never lived there at all. Victoria couldn't help but remember the first time she brought Sincere here. After confirming that they would really be living here, he had laughed with such relief, as if a heavy weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He had eagerly laid out his plans for their dream home. An unprecedented wave of defeat washed over Victoria. The memories of her and Sincere in this house replayed in her mind like a slideshow. A ringing phone shattered the silence. Victoria joyfully took out her phone, but her face fell when she saw the caller's name. A youthful, energetic voice came through. "Miss Blackwood, don't forget, we have an important gala tonight. I've already washed off the footprints Sincere left. I'll be wearing my father's final work tonight." It was only then that Victoria realized. At some point, Julian's way of addressing Sincere had subtly shifted from brother-in-law to Sincere. At the gala venue, Julian was waiting for her at the entrance. Seeing Victoria, he looked a little emotional. "Sis Vic, what took you so long?" Julian sniffed. "Why are you wearing this perfume? I don't like it. Didn't you promise me you would only wear the perfume I gave you?" As he spoke, Victoria's mind was filled with images of Sincere. Sincere had once saved up his salary for several months just to buy her a bottle of a discontinued perfume. How long had it been since she and Sincere had gone to work together? Victoria closed her eyes. Ever since Leo was born, Sincere's conversations were all about their son. Julian's appearance at that time was like a refreshing lime in a stuffy summer, a respite from her frustrating days. Julian was a short nap to stay energized during a long lecture, but she never intended to stray from the main path. "Sis Vic, are you not feeling well?" Julian's concerned voice was close to her ear, his face so near that to any observer it looked intensely intimate. Victoria took a step back. "Just a bit tired, it's nothing." When she and Julian appeared at the event, all eyes seemed to drift toward them. The rumors of their marital strife had been circulating for a long time, and Sincere was still nowhere to be seen by Victoria's side. A few business owners she was on good terms with came over. "Miss Blackwood, is this good news on the horizon? Aren't you going to introduce us?" A blush crept up Julian's face, and his grip on Victoria's hand tightened slightly. "Julian, he is—" Victoria's voice was like a rusty music box. "He is just my assistant." A voice from the stage microphone broke the slight awkwardness among the crowd. "Tonight, we're adding a special event to our gala, an auction. We have flown in a niche designer from Denmark, and she has brought her latest masterpiece." The curtain was drawn back, revealing a suit identical to the one Julian was wearing. The color instantly drained from his face, and he didn't dare look at the woman beside him. "Julian Reed." Victoria said his full name for the first time. "You said this was your father's final work?" "I'm sorry, Miss Blackwood. Please don't be angry." He put on an appeasing expression. "I was just afraid you'd look down on me for being a kid from a small town. So I lied and said my father was a deceased designer. I'll never lie again." It felt as though a large wad of cotton had been stuffed into her chest, making it hard for her to breathe. Victoria pulled her hand from his grasp and walked out to the terrace alone, a small town. Her eyes darkened as the memory of her first gala with Sincere overlapped with the present moment. It was their first invitation, and they were both a bit reserved. Everything at the banquet felt new and exciting. By the end of the night, they had barely eaten anything, busy making toasts the whole time. When it was over, they both dove into a street food market without a second thought. She loved Sincere. She had always loved him. They came from the same background, followed the same path. They were 2 points on the same line that could never be separated. She had just dozed off in their love. How had it come to this? Julian came out to the balcony, his eyes filled with tears, his slightly too small shirt revealing a well-toned chest. "Mrs. Blackwood, I was really wrong. I'll resign tomorrow. I won't come to the company anymore." When he saw Victoria's gaze land on his chest, he thought he was more than halfway to succeeding. Little did he know, a realization had just struck Victoria like a bolt of lightning. She had harbored selfish motives when she made Julian her assistant. He looked so much like Sincere in his college days. After that, the touch of their hands when he passed her documents, the slightly open collar when he bent down to pick something up, the faint scent of alcohol mixed with his deep eyes at social functions. Victoria wasn't blind to his little games. She was just too lazy to call them out. She had been indulging in the thrill of skirting the edge of morality and reason. Sincere, who had clawed his way up with her, couldn't possibly have misunderstood her intentions. He was just waiting for her to find her way back. He had given her 10,000 chances, and she had thrown away the 10,001st. Her heart skipped a beat. "You should resign. The company will give you the full compensation you're due. I'll have Linda contact you tomorrow." With that, Victoria turned and walked away on her high heels, not seeing the resentment and hatred in Julian's eyes. At the new law firm, Isabel pushed the door open. "Sincere, your ex-wife won't accept my friend request." She said it with a pained expression, like a sly fox draping herself over my desk. Leo was sleeping beside me. Making sure not to wake him, I shot Isabel a look. If she doesn't accept, then so be it. The divorce agreement is signed, everything is settled. Twirling a lock of my hair around her finger, Isabel looked at my son with a gentle expression. "Didn't I tell you to wait until Leo is a bit older before coming back to work?" I stopped typing. Since I have the time, I might as well get familiar with things. I'm not some kept man content to be fed. Hearing this, Isabel's fingers paused for a moment. Now that's the Sincere Clark I know and respect. Attorney Clark, an intern, knocked and entered. "There's a woman outside who's asking for you by name. Do you want to go see who it is?" I frowned. My location at this firm was supposed to be completely confidential. There was likely only one person who could have found me. Victoria was pacing restlessly in the guest room. When she saw me, she started to approach, then hesitated. Sincere, you're really here. When she saw the person behind me, Victoria felt a dizzying sense of vertigo, as if the floor had dropped out from under her. How is it you? Isabel looked Victoria up and down with a scornful gaze. Long time no see. I looked between the two of them, puzzled. Isabel was my junior from law school, and Victoria had been in the finance department at the neighboring university. They shouldn't have had any reason to know each other. Sincere, Victoria didn't want to waste time on extraneous people. Will you please come back with me? The workload at a firm like this is so intense. How can you possibly manage with Leo?
Right, Leo. Victoria grasped at that straw.
She and I still had a child connecting us. A child was the strongest bond that could hold a family together. Leo is still so young. He needs his mother. You wouldn't want him to grow up in a single-parent home, would you? I've already fired Julian Reed. We can go back to how things were, can't we? Leaving work together, shopping for groceries together, coming home together. I sighed and sat down on the sofa. We can't go back, Victoria. I've lived through a broken family, so I know that pain. I will never let Leo experience that. Do you remember the day you came home from the hospital after giving birth to Leo? My sudden question flustered her. He was so small, and you wouldn't even hold him. In my arms, Leo was crying his heart out. And then Julian Reed showed up. That was the first time I ever met him. Have you forgotten? You once told me you would never hire a male assistant. Victoria's throat felt tight. She never expected me to remember every single one of these small details. You said I smelled of milk from feeding Leo all day, so I started sleeping in the study. Victoria, it seems you don't deserve this much love from me. Ignoring Isabel's presence, Victoria dropped to her knees. Come back with me, I'm begging you. Her face was a mask of humble pleading. This was the last thing I ever wanted to see. You broke your arm protecting me from my uncle's attack. Since then, I've never let you carry anything heavy, so you don't need to beg me now. Love isn't something you beg for. Victoria, let's just act with a clear conscience. I'll take the market value of my shares in Blackwood Group in cash. You can keep the stock. Isabel will have you sign the share transfer agreement in a moment. Don't come to the law firm anymore. As I left the guest room, I remembered the anomalies I had seen in some of the documents. If you still trust me, after you sign, go back to the company and look at the files yourself, especially the ones Julian signed on your behalf. Just after she signed the share transfer agreement, Victoria's phone began to buzz with a relentless stream of notifications. Miss Blackwood, it seems we've signed a large number of contracts without realizing it. They appear to be a partnership with Reed Enterprises. Do you recall this? Their recent supply chain has been extremely unstable, and many of our partners are demanding an explanation. Reed Enterprises. Victoria remembered Julian telling her he had a cousin starting a business, hoping she could do him a favor and help out. In her assessment, Reed Enterprises was too small, its production chain too undeveloped. It wasn't qualified to partner with her company. After she politely declined, Julian hadn't shown much disappointment. Then she thought of the signature stamp she had left in his care. A fierce, sharp look flashed in Victoria's eyes. She grabbed her coat and rushed back to the company. The moment she arrived, she was surrounded. Reporters, employees, and business partners. Where is Julian Reed? She thundered in her office. Linda, her new assistant, trembled slightly.
You sent me a message yesterday telling him to resign.
He completed all the exit procedures this morning, and has already taken all his things. It was only then that Victoria realized she had been caught in a perfectly laid trap. Within a day, news that Blackwood Group had collapsed spread like wildfire. Staring at the dozens of documents bearing her official stamp, Victoria's head swam. She wanted to call a meeting with the legal department, then remembered with a jolt that since I had left, there was no proper lawyer to take my place. For a moment, she felt like a snake caught by its weak spot. Blackwood Group's reputation plummeted. The city's well-known law firms, protective of their own reputations, wanted nothing to do with this mess. A bunch of fair-weather sycophants, Victoria's anxiety mounted. Was the empire she had built with her own hands really going to be destroyed just like that? In her moment of desperation, Victoria received a call. Isabel's voice came through the receiver. Out of respect for Sincere, I'll help you one last time. There was nothing to be done about the contracts Victoria had signed herself, but there was a glimmer of hope for the ones bearing the company's stamp. Julian was summoned and charged. In the end, he was just a recent graduate. His psychological fortitude was weak, and he quickly confessed to his crimes, even admitting that he had orchestrated his own online harassment campaign. Blackwood Group could not be saved. The compensation payments consumed the vast majority of Victoria's capital. She was lucky to have avoided prison. The day Victoria left the capital, I took Leo to the airport to see her off. In less than a month, she had lost a significant amount of weight. Her cheeks were slightly hollowed, her skin sallow. That, combined with her dark circles, made her look exceptionally haggard. I failed you and Leo. Tears streamed down her face, and Victoria covered her eyes, not wanting anyone to see her vulnerability. I didn't help you because of any lingering feelings from our marriage. I was afraid your criminal record would affect Leo. I know. Victoria clutched her plane ticket tightly. I won't show up again after I go back to my hometown. Before she left, she gave Isabel a firm pat on the shoulder. Don't forget what you told me. I hope you can keep the promise I couldn't. Isabel nodded. That's why I came back. On the way back to the city, I couldn't help but ask, when did you and Victoria meet? What promise? Isabel didn't answer directly. It's a secret. I'll tell you when the time is right. The airport was far out and the drive back was long. Isabel looked at my face, now asleep in the passenger seat. She would never tell Sincere. In college, she had confronted Victoria. You'd better treat Sincere right for the rest of your life. Because I'm always ready to take your place. Faced with Isabel's provocation, Victoria had dismissed it as the idle threat of a young girl. You won't get the chance. Sincere and I are going to be happy together forever. By the time she graduated, Victoria's business was a success, and we had become a model power couple in the business world. Faced with this reality, Isabel chose to go abroad. But when she saw the rumors of our marital split dominating the trending topics, with no sign of being taken down, she knew her chance had come. Sincere Clark deserved a better love.